On today's show, there is never a dull moment around the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, let's see. We had a blowout loss. The team addressing online rumors, signing a goalie mid-game. And oh yeah, we got a game tomorrow to preview as well.
This is Brady Kachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today is Friday, January 9th, and Pilsy, we have so much to get to. Where do you want to start?
Well, first, Ross, when we decided to cover the Ottawa Senators on a daily basis, there are so many things that we did not have on our bingo card. And I thought all those crazy shenanigans were behind us with new ownership, new manager, new coach, new regime, new era. Nope. The Sens gone Sens, and we have a lot of shenanigans to talk about here. It's been 0 days since our last shenanigan as an Ottawa Senators fan.
Yeah, so for those who are just catching up on the story, yesterday there was an anonymous account that was created on X just literally within the last couple of days and started beginning spreading rumors to why Linus Ullmark is away from the team. We're not going to get into those rumors to substantiate them at all, but it's not hard to find if you want to look for what was said about the situation. The Senators had maintained that their only comment about Linus Ullmark was that the team had he had the team's full support. But yesterday, after it really caught fire on social media and big accounts started quote tweeting it and getting into the rumors that were being brought up, the Senators, right before their game against the Colorado Avalanche, released this statement, quote, "Our organization was extremely disappointed to read the completely fabricated and false stories that are spreading around social media about our hockey club. Linus is away from our team for personal reasons, and he has the entire organization's support. We ask that people respect his privacy, but clearly that request was not heard by the lowest forms of trolls and sick people who scour the internet. We are disgusted that outside forces are attempting to disrupt our hockey club. This statement will put an end to the ridiculous speculation that is spread online." That is from Steve Staios, president of hockey operations and general manager. Pilsy, what was your thought, A, that this was addressed, and B, how it was worded?
Okay, keep this up for a second, Ross. First, I'm not surprised they addressed it. Anyone that has a Twitter account would have seen all the rumors going around, and everything got kind of amplified, and it was very obvious what was being said. But I wish the Ottawa Senators would have cut this statement in half. And where it should have ended was right in the middle of that. We ask that people respect his privacy, period. Cut it off there. Because the second half of this is kind of emotional, and we got into almost Pierre Dorion type quotes here. Like saying the lowest forms of trolls and sick people who scour the internet. Like that's just bait for people to meme online. It just did not need to be said. And I don't know. It's just crazy to me that they let that quote go on and they decided, yeah, we need to make sure that part stays in there. Now, some Sens fans are like, I love this. It shows that Steve Staios is upset and he's backing his players. Sure, that is a good angle. You want to back your players. You want it to be clear that you are not just going to allow this to happen, and you don't want players to be upset about it. But I think you can do that internally, and you can just have a more PR-approved professional statement put out online for everyone else. And look, who knows if these rumors are true at all, if only parts of them are true. It's impossible to say, but you can't let a couple people on Twitter allow this to fully blow up a locker room and cause the issues that it has caused the Ottawa Senators lately.
Well, part of me thinks that that's why this was so strongly worded, where it's just you cannot read this and say, oh, they just did it because they felt they had to. This is an emotional response from the organization that is going out and saying, no, we're not accepting this type of talk. And it's a theme with Ottawa in terms of shutting things down. We saw, was it 2 seasons ago now with the Brady Tkachuk talk when that article came out of New York City and Michael Andlauer had the, what did he say? Something tampering? Micro tampering, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But all of that, Ross, I thought was okay. And I don't mind if the owner gets a little emotional and has statements like that. I actually like that. But from Steve Staios, this was very uncharacteristic of him, wouldn't you say?
Definitely not steady Stevie Staios here. This is fiery Stevie Staios. And you know what? I bet you part of it is him having spent so many years in NHL locker rooms, knowing what the dynamic is and understanding his group and how mature he feels like they've taken a step. He keeps saying in terms of how they're growing off the ice as leaders. And this was kind of a shot at the maturity of the team. And he felt like this had to be addressed. And look, the more that I read this and I understand the strong words can rub people the wrong way in certain situations, but I can appreciate that he's going to bat for his players where there is absolutely no way to understand what's written here other than that this is a 5-alarm bell within the organization that we need to handle this quickly, efficiently, and we'll see what happens. We'd imagine that this will be the last comment made by the Ottawa Senators. And again, that even like going back to that New York Post report years ago, like that's a legitimate news source where people are reading to get information, not from an account that was created a week ago.
At Ross, some people noted that the account was like, I think it was Frederick Nolan or whatever, and it had a profile picture. Someone did the research. Frederick Nolan has been dead for 9 years, and he was a land surveyor from a National Geographic show, The Curse of Oak Island, like that island where they're supposed to be buried treasure. Like, who decided that was going to be the alias they use to spread Ottawa Senators rumors? Like, oh my God, it's just insane the stuff that we have to deal with as Ottawa Senators fans and covering this team. Stay strong, Sens fans. Like, at this point, Ross, we just have to laugh through a lot of it because the pain is so bad and we're so used to this. We can't let it knock us down and hit us because we've been here before, and we're gonna trudge through this together, and we'll be here every day after every game, and even live streaming through the worst moments as Jack Richardson did last night. So don't worry, you can count on us to laugh through it with you guys.
Sens Central standout last night was Jack Richardson putting on a back-to-back performance for the ages. And shout out to everybody who joined him throughout that live stream. The numbers were great, and he was fired up to do it. And he will be back doing those. Won't be every game, but whenever he's got the time and is able to do it, we'll be having those live streams. Another reason to tap the notification bell on your YouTube to know when we go live. We'll always mention it as well during our shows here on Locked On Senators. So that covers the off-ice portion of the show, and I think that the Senators will move forward. And you got to wonder, does this type of thing surface if the Senators hadn't, at this point, it was before the game, if they hadn't lost 5 of their last 7 games, right? There's a part where it's like you see a team that's in disarray and, maybe feeling down. It's like, how can, if it was somebody who's a fan of another team, how can we really twist the knife and create animosity within the group? Time will tell. We'll see what happens next.
I think it could have happened, Ross, but there's an old saying, winning cures everything. I think if this team had been on a 5-6 game heater and in a playoff spot, it would have been water off a duck's back. Sure, it's annoying and it's a pain in the ass and maybe you got to deal with it, but I don't think it blows up like this. It's the losing, the rumors, the goalie on a leave of absence, the Twitter blowing up, the statement, and then a blowout loss. That all combined together created the perfect storm, and it made for a tough day.
You know what else I think played a little bit of a role in it too? When you're away on a personal leave of absence, everybody's going to respect your privacy. When Linus showed up at the rink on Monday, isn't that going to create speculation of, hey, he might be coming back soon? Oh, like, he's around the team? Is he away from the team? Like, it just adds a level of confusion from those on the outside who are wondering, like, it's a leave of absence, and if he's at the rink, like, it's just, I mean, I was confused by that.
Yeah, and that's fair. It certainly does seem strange, especially if whatever's going on is so serious that a professional athlete needs to take time away. You would think that it would be like, okay, I really need to take a step back and remove myself from this to try to either deal with what's going on or get myself in a better headspace. Maybe Ross, it was him trying to be like, hey, I'm not ready to be there and play right now, but I want to show support for the team, or I want to get a different view of the game to try to see if I can improve myself or get a better understanding of it. Because I believe, again, maybe more rumors, but he was there with like his old time Swedish goalie coach, a guy that's kind of a mentor with him. So maybe it was like, hey, bring my old goalie coach with me. Let's watch the game from a different angle and talk about things. I don't know, but
Yeah.
It certainly was a weird wrinkle that someone on a leave of absence was right there
At the game, watching the Senators give up 5 goals on 20 shots. And then it didn't go well on the road trip. The Senators go on a 2-day, 2-game road trip. They lose by an aggregate score of 11-3. They're coming off an 8-2 loss last night to the Colorado Avalanche. And the biggest story from that game, it might be 5 goals in 6 minutes and 18 seconds during the second period, but it was also a signing mid-game reported by Darren Dreger. James Reimer is a member of the organization, but not really official just yet. We'll get into that conversation next. Then we'll wrap up with a weekend preview. The back-to-back Stanley Cup champions are coming to town, but really bringing about half of their team that won that cup. We'll discuss next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like being near the ice during hockey season. The speed, the hits, the atmosphere, it's unmatched. Watching at home is great, sure, but being in the building is a completely different experience. The only thing that used to get in the way was actually getting the tickets. Long queues, endless screens, and prices that change at checkout. That's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NHL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. The app is easy to use. I can use it. You can have the view from your seat before you're buying. Zone deals are clutch. You choose the section. Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. I love that the fees are included up front, so price you see is the price you pay, and it's all backed by the Game Time guarantee. So get out to the CTC, support the boys, and do it with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today.
All right, Pillsy. So the Ottawa Senators have lost 3 games in a row. They have a minus 10 goal differential in those 3 games. But funny enough, they've actually outshot their opposition by 25 during this stretch. Can you explain what the heck is wrong with the Ottawa Senators?
We would go probably too long, Ross, if I tried to properly explain. So, and honestly, the correct answer is no. No, I cannot explain what is wrong with the Ottawa Senators. I mean, it's unfortunate because this is a year where if you can keep pace, you're right in the mix. And I know people don't want to hear it, but the Ottawa Senators still are 5 points out of the playoff spot. A lot of teams to bounce, of course. And the Florida Panthers, the reigning Stanley Cup champions, back-to-back, who they play on Saturday, are only 2 points ahead. So this is still a tight race, but the Senators have shot themselves in the foot, Ross, then shot themselves in the other foot, and then pretty much sawed off both those feet there. And now they're looking at getting prosthetic parts to try to fix their issues here.
Yeah, well, the most glaring issue, of course, has been the goaltending. They're not getting much help. Like, you look at Mads last night, and I feel for Mads because he actually was in a real tough spot coming in relief in the start of the second period. Not even the start of the period, right? They kept Levy in, and then he gave up a goal 3 minutes in. They make the call mid-period, and I thought Mads made a few good saves right off the bat. He was moving side to side laterally, a couple glove saves, and then the dam burst, and when it did, oh, did it ever. 3 one-timer goals, 2 from Brock Nelson, 1 from Marty Nachas. You had other goals just getting by him. I think it was 5 goals in a span of 7 or 8 shots. And then he didn't come out for the third period. He wasn't on the bench either, though. So we're going to have to wait and see if there'll be an update on his status, because I initially, when I saw he got pulled for Levy again, I said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, because you have Levy, who got ready to play a game, went through his stretching, was warmed up. It's like putting a pitcher in, you throw, and then once you go and cool down afterwards, and it was about an hour of real life time to put him back in, like that to me was what was the score at that point? 8-1 after 2 periods. Like that to me was the only thing that could happen out of that was Levy was going to get hurt. But if Mads couldn't go, I mean, they didn't have a choice. And you know what? Maybe a slight confidence builder, because Levy did make a couple saves in the third period, and he moved his save percentage from in the 60s to in the 80s after the third.
And Ross, this is what I was trying to get across in the postcast after the Utah game, when we had our clear differences in our opinions of who should start.
Yeah. Hand up. I did a victory lap when they announced Levy, and it didn't go well.
Yeah. And I don't want to say told us so, but
hey, he was good in the first 10 minutes too.
That's fine, Ross. But I was looking at this. The NHL season is a war. And when you're in a war, you cannot win every battle. You got to pick and choose your battles. And this was a battle the Ottawa Senators just were not going to win. I mean, you look at all the circumstances, back-to-back on the road, second one in Colorado. The Colorado Avalanche are the best team of this decade, and they just lost 2 regulation games. They're pissed off. You've got all the controversy going on along the team. It's just, there's no easy way this team was going to win. So it was unfair to both goalies. Like, I think it was unfair to be like, Levy, we need you to go in here and win this game. You're going to save us. You're coming off a back-to-back where you just lost. You got to do it again. And then how unfair to Mads to be like, all right, we're giving you an NHL opportunity. You're going to get called up to the big club, back-to-back games. No, we don't trust you enough to start, but we're going to toss you in when you're cold up against the best team that's on a heater right now and just feed you to the wolves. Like, if you were going to do that, let them prepare for it. Let them be like all day, I know I'm starting. I know it's a tough task, but I'm going to get warm. I'm going to stretch, especially a guy like Mads that has serious continuous injury concerns. Like, you could not have done the kid worse. And I just feel so bad for him, because they should have at least given him the time to prepare, let him know they have confidence in him, and give him a shot here. And it's the same thing they did to Hunter Shepard. They call him up, and the only time he gets an opportunity is midway through a game, and it's so unfair to them. Like, that really grinds my gears. And then to have Levy go in again at the third, again, we don't know whether Mads was hurt or couldn't go, or what the story was. But then now you're going to expect Levy to start on Saturday too? If I was Levy, I'd be like, screw you guys. Like, you're putting me in the worst scenarios over and over again. And then when you take me out of a bad scenario, you put me back into the bad scenario. And then you want me to start again on Saturday against the back-to-back Stanley Cup champs? Reimer better drive from Belleville and get his agent on the phone and call and make that deal into a ATO, into a full NHL contract, because you guys can get bent. I'm not doing that for you. Like, honestly, that's how I would feel.
And the fact that the news came out, James Reimer signing a PTO pills, the ATOs for an amateur, 15 years in the league for James Reimer.
I mean, he's basically an amateur. His last games were in the Spengler Cup up against college kids and Davos.
Yeah, and those are the only 2 games he's played all season long. So he's got a PTO in Belleville, and Darren Dreger said the expectation is that he will agree to an NHL contract and get to be the backup, which we were saying all summer, get a veteran backup in. And if it was James Reimer, we would have said, okay, like, It's not going to move the needle a whole lot, but at least it's not going to get you on the needle right to empty where you got to fill up for a goaltender. And James Reimer, you look at the numbers in his career, and it's actually way better than I had anticipated. He's a veteran of 525 NHL games. He's got 225 wins, 187 losses, 65 OT losses in there. He's got a career .910 save percentage and a 2.89 goals against average, 31 shutouts. He's basically got an entire basement worth of jerseys too, because after starting his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he's moved around a ton from San Jose to Florida to Carolina, back to San Jose to Detroit to Anaheim, and then finished last season with the Buffalo Sabres, where he had an .899 save percentage in 19 starts for them, including beating Ottawa in April. And that's actually a stat I want to continue on with, because his career against the Senators as a whole is impressive. But if you even narrow that down to his numbers at the Canadian Tire Center, he's 12-4-1 with a 235 goals against average and a sparkling .935 save percentage in those games. So he has commented he likes the lights at the CTC, but man, they're going to be bright if and when he gets his opportunity to play with the big club.
Best in class lighting. Nothing pumps the franchise up than having a 37-year-old goalie that's not signed to a team say, hey, I came here because they got good lighting. So put that feather in your cap, Ottawa Senators. And
he didn't say that he signed here because of the lighting, but it doesn't take a genius to look at the situation Ottawa finds themselves in goal and say, hey, if I'm looking for an opportunity, this is a place to be.
Big time, yeah. And it's also important to note, Ross, James Reimer had a PTO in the preseason with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who were having issues with their goaltending injuries. I believe, was it Stolars or Woll also had a personal leave?
Correct.
So like they were looking for a guy and they didn't sign him. And that's a guy who's like a Toronto legend. Like he's got some cachet there.
Legend is a bit much.
Legend is a bit much. That's fair. But like that's a guy who has some history with the team and is viewed, I mean, maybe Leafs fans can tell me if I'm wrong, but viewed in a positive light, I would say, in that organization. And they decided to let him go. So keep that in mind with James Reimer. Now, I think this still is a good move. You needed to bring someone in, like I just mentioned on my rant about Levy. Like, it's completely unfair what they're doing. And this is what I talked about all season long. If you got in this situation, how poorly this was going to turn out. And that's what happened. But I'm glad they brought in someone that's a veteran. I'm glad they brought in someone that isn't going to cost them any assets. I know some people wanted Laurent Brossoit, who was just dealt to the Sharks, but that cap hit, I think, is too high. It wouldn't have costed much to get him, but I just think that's not the move right now. But signing a goalie mid-game when you're getting pumped, days after your general manager said he believes in the goalie depth of this, and while your fourth goalie is playing, I mean, that's just...
Well, at the time of the signing, too.
Franchises don't do that, Ross.
Well, not only the fact it came out mid-game, I think that was Traeger trying to play up, because it came out as well that he is already in Belleville. Like he's getting ready to play there. So the decision was made before the game.
I don't know. I don't want that to get in the way of a good story, Ross. Yeah. I want to picture Steve Staios watching this game and being like, all right, that's it.
You think he has a
James Reimer's agent on the phone, and we're getting this deal done now. We'll throw in a free Shoeless Joe's gift card in Belleville. We got to find a way to seal this deal.
Yeah, and then when he gets to Ottawa, buddy, we'll get you a beer at the GCP after your first win with the Ottawa Senators. GLEBE Central Pub. We love those guys. They're such beauties. Go support them. Live music Saturday night. They've also got the shuttle going for this game against the Florida Panthers that we're going to preview in a moment. I did reach out to the Belleville Senators, and no word yet on whether James Reimer will start tonight. It would be kind of a full circle moment in a sense, because they're playing the Toronto Marlies, and we've already acknowledged that Reimer started his career playing with the Toronto Marlies in the American Hockey League. So that was in 2008. We're almost 20 years after he made his American Hockey League debut. He hasn't played in the AHL since 2011. He's been in the National Hockey League ever since, and we will see how he looks when he does get, I'd imagine he's going to get one game at least with Belleville because he's only played those 2 games in the Spengler Cup this season. And if it's not tonight, then it could be tomorrow. Belleville's got a back-to-back. Tonight is on the road in Toronto, tomorrow in Belleville. And then the Sens in Ottawa have a back-to-back on Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So my thought is that he's going to start one of those 2 games, whether it's at home against Vancouver or on the road in New York City. Imagine going from not being signed anywhere to playing at Madison Square Garden. Like, hockey comes at you fast.
First off, Ross, love the Big J journalism approach there. You reached out to the Belleville Senators.
Shut up, footy. Yeah, shut up, footy.
But I like that. And don't you want James Reimer starting back-to-back games?
No.
He's a professional athlete. He's had all this time to prepare, Ross. He should be starting both of those games.
Okay, you're a funny guy. You're funny. You're so good. Let's see if you can continue making me laugh in the 3rd segment. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for you inside the app. Each game day, you're going to see that pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply on the bets you like the most. Open up your profit boost pack and see what you've got. They've got things that'll allow you to tap into your game day instincts, momentum, defense, quarterback plays, injuries, or coaching. You can choose. The more juice on the bets you already like, instead of forcing you to bet something new, you make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen each and every day and post-game. Now, go up a level and get ad-free content from us. You can join the Everydayer Club today and get LOSP with no interruptions, as well as a members-only Discord access, all for just $5 a month or $50 per year. You can visit lockedonsenators.supercast.com to learn more. The link is in our show notes below. All right, Billsy. So, the Senators took on the Colorado Avalanche, who were coming off 2 straight losses. And tomorrow, they'll take on a Florida Panthers team that finds themselves in the same situation. And to make matters the exact same, they've also lost 2 games against Atlantic Division teams. Colorado had lost to Florida and Tampa, and now the Florida Panthers are coming into Ottawa after losing to Toronto and Montreal. They're also without half their roster. I don't know if Brad Marchand's going to play. I don't know if Matthew Tkachuk's going to play. They both missed last game against the Montreal Canadiens. You add Barkov in the mix there. That might be one of the best lines in hockey if they put those 3 together.
Yeah, and you talk about teams having excuses and things not going well for them. Well, the Sens aren't the only team around the league that is dealing with stuff, and you don't see other teams complaining about it or letting it stop them from trying to compete. So Florida Panthers, one of the most competitive teams in the league the last couple of years, they're not going to let it stop them either, Ross. And we said it, when Ross has to change the font size on the injury column to fit all the names in, you cannot have an excuse, especially, Ross, when the injuries for the Ottawa Senators, personal leave of absence, not classified as an injury, are 0. This is a fully healthy roster, something that almost never happens in professional sports.
Yes, and we will see how the Sens come out because they've allowed the first goal in 8 straight games. You can't fall behind in this one early because the Ottawa Senators it would feel like Groundhog Day again, and I can only imagine the lack of confidence that they would feel. And I'm also a little nervous tomorrow, Pillsy, that if it doesn't go well in the first half of the game, this crowd might turn on them. The crowd might turn on them tomorrow. But if the Senators are able to pull it off, they would be tied with the Florida Panthers in the standings. take a deep breath and think that one through. But again, you got a tough 60 minutes ahead. It is worth noting, though, the Senators did beat Florida in both meetings in Ottawa last year, 3-1 in the home opener, and then it was either 3 or 4-0 later on because they shut out the Panthers and the Lightning in back-to-back games later on in the season. So they have had success at home against Florida. In the away building, it's a different story, but the Sens are playing this game at the CTC. Let's look quickly, since we're talking about Florida. This was their lineup against the Montreal Canadiens last night. And yeah, I had to make the injuries so small font-wise in the graphic, and they don't have any extras on this trip that I just took out extras and had to get all these injuries in. So let's start with the injuries. Matthew Tkachuk, he's skating, contact jersey, hasn't played this season. We'll see if he's back on Saturday. Brad Marchand missed the game against Montreal. That was the first one that he's missed. Barkov hasn't played this season after surgery, hurt himself in training camp. Tomas Nosek out. Seth Jones got hurt in the Winter Classic. He's out. Dmitry Kulikov not in the lineup. Jonah Gadjevich, a really good fourth liner for them, not in the lineup. And Cole Schwindt also missing with injury. So the players that were in the lineup for that 6-2 loss against Montreal: Anton Lundell was centering Eetu Luostarinen and Sam Reinhart. Then Sam Bennett with Carter Verhaeghe and AJ Greer. The third line is Evan Rodriguez with Jesper Bokvist and Maki Samoskevich. And the fourth line, Luke Cunnin with #Sens Abroad, Noah Gregor, and Jack Studnicka. On the back end, Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad, Nico Mikkola with Uves Balinskis, and Donovan Sabrango, Sens Abroad, with Jeff Petrie, Sergei Bobrovsky, and Daniil Tarasov, the two goalies for the Florida Panthers. Who's your lookout player to watch?
My lookout player to watch is going to be second line center number 9, Sam Bennett, the scorned Olympian snub. Ross, he's been hot lately. In his last 11 games, he has 12 points, 6 goals, 6 assists. Now a -6 on that. But he has been playing really good. And look, this is a weak lineup. You need the guys that your good players that are still in there to step up. And if we know anything about Sam Bennett, is he's able to step up in big moments. So I'm going to be looking out for him in this game for sure.
Yeah, I'm always wondering too about those guys that just missed on the Olympic teams, because for them, the tryout continues.
Yep.
If there are injuries, which, I mean, you never root for it, but it's just inevitable that leading up to the Olympics, some guys might not be good to go. He's obviously on the short list for what he accomplished with the Conn Smythe last year. I mean, heck, he scored the game-tying goal in the championship game in the Four Nations. So he was very much considered the number one snub on that team. Maybe Jets fans would say Scheifele. Maybe Blackhawks fans would say Connor Bedard. But Sam Bennett, a very key player to watch, especially with the way that Panthers Senators games have gone over the last couple of years, really 3 or 4 years, where it can turn into an alley brawl at any time. And don't be surprised if Sam Bennett is in the middle of it. He also was the guy that fought Brady Tkachuk in that wild first 9 seconds of the preliminary game at Four Nations. My lookout player is also going to be a centerman. It's Anton Lundell. I've been long a fan of Anton Lundell. Heck, we wouldn't have even been mad if Ottawa had taken him at 5th overall in the 2020 draft. Obviously, at the time, we wouldn't trade Jake Sanderson for the world, let alone Anton Lundell now, but he is a heck of a player. And I think that he's kind of figuring out now how to be a top center. It was a tough situation for him. He was so insulated before when he was able to have Barkov and Sam Bennett playing ahead of him in the lineup. But now he's at the point where it's been 40 games and he's starting to really produce. If you look at his numbers, he had 8 points in October, 11 in November, and 12, including 7 goals in December. He had only 6 goals in his first 24 games this season in the first 2 months. So he's a guy where I'm not expecting him to be that, 90-point guy that obviously you're expecting out of a top line center, but I don't think he's going to look out of place as a number one guy here for the extended period that he's in this situation. So I'm going to be watching really closely to see, because that's a lot of responsibility on a 24-year-old who was picked 12th overall. And he's a guy where him and Luostarinen, like, those two with Marchand was their third line during the playoff run last year. So they're both in very elevated roles, and we'll see how he does here. But I mean, Ottawa, if you're looking at the head-to-head matchup, why we both went with centerman. I mean, the Senators, they're all healthy. We talk about how good they are down the middle, how they've built this Stützle, Cousins, Pinto, and you can even throw Greg in when he gets his chance at center. And Ottawa has to win that matchup to be successful against this Panthers team that they're you can never count them out. Like, we didn't even do the head-to-head stats for today because it's like, I think you can kind of throw them out the window for this game. I think this is going to be who wants it more. Both teams coming in. Sens have lost 3 in a row. The Panthers have lost 2 in a row. They're seeing everybody else in the division stacking points. So it's going to be a who wants it more game. And that's my key to victory is want it more. Show the crowd that you guys aren't quitters, that you guys are going to battle through adversity and come out and get a huge win. The conversation around this team can change so drastically depending on the results of this game. If you go in and if you put a solid 60-minute performance and a puck line win up, I think there's going to be a lot of Sens fans that say, okay, let's build off of that. You got a hobbled Vancouver Canucks team coming to town on Tuesday, a really disarrayed New York Rangers team that's without 2 key players on Wednesday, no Fox, no Shesterkin. And then you can build into a weekend where you've got 2 divisional matchups, the Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings. But it all starts with this game. And if they lose this one, man, I'm worried we're going to be in a full free fall, long time losing streak. So go out there, start strong, get the crowd feeling good about the team, and play with the lead, which is something they just have not been able to do recently.
Is this a must-win game, Ross?
It's you really need to win this game.
I think I can sway you. I think we should put the official LOSP must-win trademark stamp on this game because you just said it, Ross. If you can win this game, you stop the bleeding of what's happened recently. It's a division win. It's a Stanley Cup champion win. They have 8 injuries, 6, 7. So like it's absolutely crucial that you can't let them come in. You're fully healthy. You need to see some confidence from the goalies. You need to get the crowd into it. And it leads into a couple games after where you have an advantage over these other teams that are struggling as well. So what do you say, Ross? I think we should stamp this a must-win game.
Yeah, I'm with you. You sold me on it. And the fact it's a divisional matchup is going to be the what pushes it over the edge.
And at home.
Me. Gotta win. Gotta get points at home, too. Like the Ottawa Senators, and I talked about this briefly on the postcast, but I didn't have the numbers in front of me to back it up, like especially when Brady Tkachuk was out. But even beyond that, like they were able to find points. They got the OT game against Edmonton, then the Montreal, Boston, Dallas. They were able to get those loser points. Well, out of their last 11 losses, 12 rather, the last 12 losses, you can actually back it up all the way to the Dallas loss. So let's do that. In their last 14 losses, they have 1 loser point.
Yeah.
That's it. And with how close the standings are, you have to find ways to get games past regulation. Of course, with the division, you want it to just be a clean regulation win, but you got to stop this stretch of not getting anything for a 60-minute effort. So this is how the Senators lined up for the game in Colorado. I do not even want to hazard to guess what the lineup's going to look like tomorrow because Travis Green has had the blender out over the last number of games.
That's got to stop, though, Ross. Don't you agree? Like it's just been silly the way he's been putting his lines up. I know you're desperate. I know you're trying to change things, but you said it last night on the postcast. There wasn't one trio of forwards that got scored on more than once, which is crazy in an 8-goal game. Like, how are you blending the lines this much? I think that only hinders the Ottawa Senators' opportunity, and it just ruins confidence. You're playing with guys you don't have chemistry with. I know you got to try it once in a while, and that's fine, but it's just been ridiculous. Let's get back to a true standard Ottawa Senators lineup now that everyone's healthy.
Yeah, the 4 lines that played the most at 5-on-5 last game, actually the 5 lines that played the most at 5-on-5, all were on the ice for 1 goal against. And then during a line change, they got scored on as well. Only 8 seconds for that shift. But if you look at it, like Cousins, Prom, Batherson, it was Pinto, Gregg, Giroux, Eller, Zetterlund, and Cousins. And then Timmy Tkachuk and Amadio played the least together at 5-on-5, only 3 minutes and 11 seconds. And that's the most time on ice that Timmy and Tkachuk got with a single winger, right? Like they played 2:21 with Zetterlund on that line, 1:06 with Giroux, 1:05 with Nick Cousins. Like they were just trying to find someone to complement Stützle and Tkachuk's game, whereas just let them roll a little bit with what they've got. And we'll see if that can help them get some sort of stability, because when you're changing things up, Pillsy, and it doesn't work, it just looks disorganized. Yeah. And that's a word I'd describe the Senators on this losing streak, is they are just a disorganized team, and they've got to figure that out ASAP.
My locked on player for tomorrow's game, this is easy, Ross. It's got to be Brady Tkachuk. You're the leader of this team. There's all this nonsense going on off the ice. You're up against your brother's team. Whether he plays or not doesn't really matter to me. The Florida Panthers have certainly big broed the Ottawa Senators in the past. You're at home. They've got all these injuries. You need to stop the bleeding. Be a leader. Be the guy that drags this team into the battle. And I'm not talking about getting in a fight. Obviously, he can't do that with his thumb and being wrapped up. And that's not even what I'm suggesting here. But find a way to lead this team to a victory. You have to do it. This is such an important game for Brady Tkachuk. He hasn't been playing that great lately. Sure, cool. He got his first ever shorthanded goal last night. Congrats. That's nice. And an 8-2 loss to make it 8-2. He's got to be the Sens' best player tomorrow, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's got 10 points, 5 goals in 11 home games this season with a -5 rating. So let's boost those numbies and get Brady feeling good about himself and have a moment with the crowd after a goal. We know he gets fired up when he pots it in a game where it's not the second goal in an 8-2 loss. So great call on Brady Tkachuk being your locked on player. I'm tempted to go with Timmy, obviously coming off his fight, but I'm going to go a different direction here. And I'm thinking about who's going to play right wing on that line. And I don't know if it'll be for the whole game, but one guy during this stretch, you can't question the effort, is Claude Giroux. And that's going to be my locked on player. A bit of a revenge game. He obviously had a cup of coffee in Florida on his way to Ottawa between Philly and the Sens. So I'm looking at Claude Giroux as a guy that he's going to be the, let's say Brady's the de facto leader. I think Claude Giroux is probably fed up with what's going on. And I want him to be fiery, emotional leader, Claude Giroux, in this game. I'm expecting him to clean out the face-off dot and continue to produce. Like I know it sucks to talk about points that players have when the team's lost so much recently, but in this stretch where the Sens have lost won 2 of their last 8 games, he's got 6 points and is a +2, leads the team in plus-minus, and he's a guy you can never question the effort for. So I'm expecting him to be a dog on a bone in tomorrow's game. So he'll be my locked on player to watch. It's a 7:00 start, Hockey Night in Canada game from the Canadian Tire Center. The postcast will be live after the game, and the GCP shuttle will be rolling to and from the CTC. Get your tickets online, GLEBECentralPub.com. Pillsy, final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is I think a lot of Sens fans yesterday before the game even happened, and then emphasized with the way the game went, hit the panic button. Officially, I'm still holding off on the panic button. I know that might piss people off. Positive Pillsy, sipping the copium, sure, that's fine. But there's too much at stake at this season for, what was that, game 42 or 43? 43?
43, yeah.
I know it sounds crazy, but we're only 5 points out. We're 2 points back of the Panthers. If you can right this ship, and maybe James Reimer ends up being a guy that helps you get a couple wins here, let's stay strong. I'm not hitting the panic button.
Good to know, Pillsy. My final thoughts, I got a couple. They're prospect related. We'll obviously have eyes on Belleville this weekend. Those 2 games against the Marlies. We'll be keeping an eye on James Reimer, as well as a potential return for Tyler Boucher, who's missed all but 12 games this season with injury. And another note, Senators' 3rd-round pick from this past draft, Blake Vanek, has been traded to the Calgary Hitmen. It's a bit of a lateral move. Calgary's, I think, 9th in the WHL. Wenatchee, where he was moved from, is about 12th or 13th. So hopefully a new opportunity for Blake Vanek will be good for him. And on that note, he's the 2nd Senators 2025 draft pick to be traded this season. Luka Beckman has not made his debut yet with Chicoutimi. However, Chicoutimi lost their last game 5-1, and they're playing against Beckman's former team, Baie-Comeau, tonight.
Ooh.
So we'll see if Beckman can get his first game with the first place team in the QMJHL, the Chicoutimi Saguenay. I hope I pronounced that right. I know our guy, Sens fan in QC, will help us out. All right, that's it for us today. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Stay strong, Sens fans. It was a tough week, but one we really enjoyed here on LOSP with the new live streams going along with the postcast and your daily uploads. So thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. It means a lot to us. And you can always support the show by following us on social media at Sens Central, hitting the thumbs up below, and leaving a 5-star review. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.